Okay, hey, Teng, thanks for joining. Interesting story, quite relevant because KLCI is always has been in the last few days touching record highs. I just want to understand how you all got into the story and why you decided to do the story. My understanding is because it started from an interview with Tan Chong Kueh.
Oh, yeah. So we interviewed Dr. Tan last month. Okay. So one thing he pointed out is that it is time to him. He thinks it's time for him to raise his cash level. When we spoke to him last month, he was still holding 40% cash. So we think because the stock valuation is rather high now, globally and also locally, he thinks. So it's time to be more defensive, selective, and also raise to raise his cash level. Then we expand from the interview, our story.
Okay, so the thrust of this week's cover story is basically, in a nutshell, investors should understand that there's much more to the KLCI than local elections, right? There's oil, there's external, there's of course ringgit issues. Why did you decide to take this direction rather than look at why exactly he's holding cash? What kind of things are coming up? I mean, to me, that would be quite an interesting point of view.
I think actually the main objective of our story this week is to point out, is to remind our readers that don't be overly distracted or too focused on the election factors. Okay, so after May 9, life still goes on. So what are the things that could drive the stock market? And I mean, we basically group these 5 factors together to remind them that the external factors, like it or not, are still stronger than the local election factor.
So if I pair the thrust of your story with what Tan Chong Kueh is doing, he's basically holding 40% cash. You're saying in your cover story that there's much more to the stock market direction than local elections. Then if I take it together, it means that he's kind of expecting, and the market is kind of expecting a major correction in the works. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely right. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Because he actually pointed out that when we spoke last month, right, the Dow dropped quite a bit. Offhand, I can't remember how many.
Actually,
points.
The US has had a bad few weeks.
February and then April, right? So he actually thinks that the Dow hasn't dropped enough. That's what he said, and he thinks stock valuation are still high. Okay. So that's his main concern. So much global uncertainty around the world. Then we have the election uncertainty also. So that's why he said the main message from him, Dr. Tan, is never fully invest, and also to raise your cash level.
So I understand from the industry that there's quite a few fund managers holding cash. I mean, outspokenly in the past, people like iCapital, Stunting Boom, he's a famous holder of cash for always opportunities. The thing is, what kind of events do you think might trigger a correction in Malaysia, or is it really a contagion effect thing?
Yes, contagion effect, yes. But I think everyone is looking at the US, like it or not. I mean, it has always been the case, I think Mr. Polikert, when I spoke to him, he mentioned that if you just to imagine, on our election night, something happened to the US market, whether BN wins or lose. If the Dow plunge on that night, you can't really expect election rally on the second day morning. I think that's how it is, It's don't get us wrong. The local election factor is a very important thing to look at, but the external factors are stronger.
So you spoke to Polikert, you spoke to Tan Chong Kueh, you also spoke to Danny Wong of Areca. What was Danny's feedback?
It's interesting. Danny pointed out that at this time, right, we should actually avoid the politically sensitive stock. I mean, much has been said about pre-election rally, and before election you should buy into certain election play, right? But he thinks now that we are just 2-3 weeks away from, in fact 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks before election, we should actually avoid that because there's already a run-up for the election play. So if you go in now, yes, if BN win, maybe the upside is still there, but it's rather limited. But if on the flip side, if Pakatan wins and like what people expect, the market could drop. Okay. Then the downside for this election play is so much bigger than their potential upside.
So start from the fundamentals. Did they mention about outlook? Which are the drivers? Perhaps Bank Negara interest rate policy, maybe domestic sentiment, business sentiment.
I think rising interest rate, local and also the US, I think theoretically is bad for the market. rising interest rate is bad for the market.
Unless you're a bank, of course, right?
But I think for corporate earnings, I think most people are projecting single-digit growth this year.
Okay.
So they're not that optimistic. On the stock market, it's not that pessimistic. But the biggest concern is the valuation. Stock valuation is rather high now, US and also KLCI. So we always say, people always say that if PN wins, that market could go up and all. But I think it will be capped by these external factors.
For more on this story, pick up a copy of The Edge Weekly at all good newsstands.